This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Eleven soldiers killed in Burkina Faso as the country mourns the death of 35 civilians. Turkey to send troops to Libya if conflict escalates. And a Nigerian architect becomes quite the sensation with his animations. Hello and a very warm welcome to Africa Live, only on CGTN. I'm Mahia Mutua, live in Nairobi. Ramanyang joins me now with your business headlines.
That's right, Mahia. Here's what's coming up in the course of the hour. 10 million mobile phone users in Tanzania will be cut off if they fail to meet an end December registration deadline. And the world's biggest economy reports a tripling of cell phone-related injuries in the last decade. We'll have the details on those stories and lots more coming your way in the course of the hour. For now, though, let's start with the latest in current affairs with Mahia.
Thanks, Rama. Let's begin in Burkina Faso, where 11 soldiers have been killed a day after insurgents killed 35 civilians at a military outpost in Soum province. President Roch Marc Kabore cancelled all seasonal celebrations and declared 2 days of national mourning from Wednesday in response to the attack. This month's incident follows an attack on a mining convoy in November, which killed nearly 40 people. The Islamist insurgency has ignited ethnic tensions and rendered large parts of Burkina Faso ungovernable this year. This has been amplified by a spillover of militant attacks from its northern neighbor, Mali.
The military is sending a strong message. They're saying, if you go back to Ouagadougou, tell the civilians that we are together, and that it is this togetherness that will win this battle. If you assure us that the civilians are with us, then we will go from victory to victory. We have received this message here.
Let's turn to Turkey now, where President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has announced that Ankara should soon be deploying troops to Libya. Speaking shortly after returning from a one-day visit to Tunisia, Erdogan said Parliament is set to vote on a motion in January which will pave the way for troop deployment. He had earlier indicated that his country is pushing for a ceasefire in Libya. On Saturday, the Turkish parliament ratified a security and military cooperation deal that was recently signed with Libya. However, a separate motion is needed to deploy troops. Libya's government of national accord has been battling with Eastern Commander Khalifa Haftar for Tripoli. When and if deployed, Turkish soldiers will be supporting the Fayez al-Sarraj-led government of National Unity Forces.
Turkey signed both a maritime agreement and a military cooperation agreement with Libya. Hopefully this agreement will pass in Parliament around January the 8th to the 9th and will accept the invitation to send troops to Libya. This is the reason we are holding all these meetings. We are standing by the legitimate government of the country and accept their invitation. That is the difference.
Well, for more on that, here is CGTN's Michal Bardavid with more details from President Erdogan's speech in Istanbul.
The most important item on his speech, of course, was Libya. He emphasized and he clearly stated that Turkey plans to send troops to Libya. He stated that the parliament will be given a motion for approval regarding sending troops. He stated that he actually expects it to be signed and approved between January 8th and 9th, so he even gave a date to that. He stated that Turkey was very happy to accept the invitation from Libya to send troops. Regarding his visit to Tunisia, which was a very surprising one yesterday that happened last minute, he stated that Tunisia, as a neighboring country to Libya, was being impacted by the conflict there. He stated that Tunisia can play a very key role. He stated, and I quote, "I believe Tunisia will have valuable and constructive contributions to establishing stability in Libya." He said this earlier, and he stressed that Turkey and Tunisia will be cooperating very closely regarding the conflict in in Libya. Well, Turkey's strategy really is regarding those two agreements, one economic, one security/political. When we're talking about, of course, the Mediterranean and the potential that there is there for Turkey is just incredible. So Turkey really is ambitious when it comes to these agreements. When it comes to the gas exploration potential that create for Turkey, Turkey is determined to continue despite threats from Greece, criticism from Greece and EU countries due to its exploration activities already in the Mediterranean. And Turkey believes that because the United Nations also supports the GNA, the Government of National Accord inside Libya, that the deals that Turkey signed with the GNA, they're very much legitimate, that they're very much legal. So Turkey thinks that it has the right, international right, to do so. And these are, of course, economic goals for Turkey. And when we're talking about the security, the agreement, the security deal that it has signed with the GNA as well, these are really concerning Turkey's ambitions to become a regional powerhouse. So those are very much in line with that. Turkey also wants to have a say in what happens in the Mediterranean. So Turkey's goals are really much related to that when it comes to Libya.
Well, Libya's Tripoli-based government says it will only request Turkish military support if the conflict escalates. Since April, the UN-backed government has been fighting forces loyal to Eastern Military Commander General Khalifa Haftar. The Libyan Interior Minister, in a press conference, said an escalation of the conflict could destabilize the region. CGTN's Adnan Shawashi has more.
Fathi Bashagha declared that the escalation of the armed conflict will destabilize neighboring countries, especially Tunisia and Algeria.
The Libyan government relies on the alliance with Turkey because the whole North African region. It's not only Tripoli that was targeted by the military operation of Haftar on December 4th. He targets the other capitals as well. If Tripoli falls, then the capital cities of Tunis, Algiers will follow. Haftar wants to wreak havoc and not stability.
The Libyan official emphasized the legitimacy of the Government of National Accord at regional, continental and international levels.
This government is recognized internationally by all the countries of the world. It is the legitimate and unique representative of Libya at the Arab League and the European Union, the United Nations, the African Union, and all international organizations without exception.
Experts in Libyan affairs maintain that Tunisia cannot side with any Libyan party or region and should rather remain neutral while pushing for a peaceful settlement.
The Libyan situation is open to many scenarios. Turkey's announced direct interference in the conflict is a threat to Tunisia's stability. Tunisia is urging for dialogue because authorities are aware that instability and insecurity will affect the country, especially other border regions with Libya.
Following his meeting Wednesday with Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan, President Kais Saied said the issue of redefining borders and the agreement reached between Turkey and Libya has not been discussed by the two heads of state. Saied added that the issue does not concern Tunisia, neither in its relations with Turkey nor with Libya. Tunisia has mobilized its military forces on its southeastern border with Libya. Thousands of security and military units are now on high alert near the Ras Jdir and Hiba border crossings. Adnan Shawashi, CGTN, Tunis.
Well, the possibility of having Turkish troops in Libya complicates international efforts that have so far failed to stabilize Libya. Political analyst Sarah Kira looks at the significance of Turkey's entry into the Libyan conflict.
Libya can be resolved by more international voices asking for the unity of Libya again as it was before the removal and dying of Gaddafi regime. So it should be again united with the international powers or international members of the international community asking for unity of Libya to promote peace along its borders and to promote peace within Libya itself and to overcome terrorism there. Well, the voices that that should come together for the sake of Libya are the Libyans' powers and political powers and militias themselves before any other regional powers. Egypt has taken part in resolving the Libyan situation or Libyan crisis because it's of a very important strategic depth for Egypt. Egypt tries to follow international law, resolving the Libyan crisis, but with escalating voices, with deploying troops from the Turkish part, or threatening the security of the region, or trying to put the Middle East again on fire through Libya. That won't be resolving any issue and won't be resolving the Libyan crisis any soon, as well as these voices are escalating threats by deploying troops.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, international medical charity Doctors Without Borders has stopped its Ebola prevention activities in the Biakato territory. This is due to the presence of Congolese soldiers at health facilities. The organization's emergency coordinator says the presence of soldiers at health centers goes against their principles of neutrality and impartiality. As CGTN's Chris Ochamringa reports, the security deployment follows an increase in attacks by militia groups in the region.
Doctors Without Borders say their decision to end operations in Biakato territory is regrettable, but had to be enforced because of the presence of soldiers in health facilities. The medical aid agency believes health centers should remain free of weapons so that communities can feel safe to seek health care. The organization has worked in the area since 2016. The Congolese government deployed soldiers at the health facilities this month after unidentified men attacked 2 treatment centers in November and killed 4 healthcare workers. After the attack, Doctors Without Borders temporarily withdrew its staff from Biakato region in Ituri province. The Congolese government will take over the operations that the aid agency has been carrying out in the area. In April this year, the head of the medical charity decried what she called the overly militarization of the response to the Ebola outbreak. Insecurity in the Ebola-affected regions of eastern DRC has forced the government to deploy soldiers and UN peacekeepers. More than 2,200 people have died of Ebola since the outbreak was first declared in August last year. Chris Ochamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
You're watching Africa Live on CGTN. Here's what's coming up after this short break. A look at the Liberian culture in our continuing series on the country. Kenyans mark last Boxing Day as government seeks to rename it in honor of culture.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. You've got to get out, go there, and you'll find them. In the bazaars of Casablanca, among the crowds in Cairo,
we come to visit Cairo, the ancient capital of Egypt.
Along the waters of the Nile, along the sands of the Sahara. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. No one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
For a look at some economic data out of the country, the country's foreign currency reserves.
With a dedicated and diverse team of anchors, CGTN now brings Africa to the palm of your hand.
I'm Perina Karibe in the heart of Nairobi, which is bustling.
From everyday heroes to the continent's most powerful figures, we bring their voices to you.
We haven't changed. And this is something most of us are very excited about.
We bring you news that's changing perspectives. News that brings Africa to the world. CGTN. See the difference. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back to Africa Live. Now, Liberia's creative industry has the potential to play a significant role in economic development. However, the industry lags behind due to a lack of government support. A few individuals in the country are trying to change this through an initiative to promote Liberia's cultural heritage, not only as a means to development, but also to promote the country's folklore. CGTN's Susan Mongeli brings us this story.
The Sunday dance is popular among communities in Western Liberia. It's performed by girls who've graduated from Bush School, where they're taught cultural values and norms. Ready for marriage, they show off to potential suitors. And then there is the Back to the Soil dance. Popular among farming communities. It shows the entire process involved in rice farming, from the clearing of the bush through the harvest.
The performing arts is very, very significant and important in our national development program, because we believe our people can easily understand from what we do, our acts, our dances, our dramas, our songs. They can easily relate to these things.
Malawala Balawala was a household name in Liberia in the 1980s before the Civil War. With the restoration of peace, the group is back, with the aim of telling the traditional Liberian story. Miles away in the outskirts of Monrovia, a cultural awareness program is currently underway. It's part of a pilot project that seeks to reawake a passion for traditional Liberian music.
After the war, our kids have been lost. Even the adults have been lost. Some of them did not grow up by their people. They grew up in Monrovia and knowing nothing about Liberia. So we believe going back to the school system and introducing our culture to our children is going to help us preserve and protect our culture.
The program is part of an initiative by the Adezuzu, an organization looking to help rewrite the emerging narratives of Liberia's socioeconomic and political challenges.
So what we hope to achieve through Ayazuzu is utilize the power of culture and creativity as the means of economic growth and national development in Liberia. And how we intend to do this is through programs and strategies that address some of these cultural, economic, and national development issues.
The organization is also trying to professionalize the industry, as well as promote the development of production spaces for artists.
Liberian artists lack the means of production, and as such, many have had to travel to Ghana, to Nigeria, where they can be able to access some of these facilities. Now, overall, this has the potential to further stifle the growth of the creative industry.
Artists are not benefiting from what their properties, their intellectual properties, they are not benefiting, simply because people are in the habit of bootlegging. We call it bootlegging. And so there's a need that we can't root them out of the business, but we can help them manage the business so that there will be a fair share. The artists are winning, and they too, they are winning.
Piracy is of particular concern for upcoming musicians like the hip-hop artists. Hip-hop is a musical mashup of hip-hop and the Liberian colloquial English that tackles societal issues including governance. Despite its popularity, artists are unable to get a break and depend on events like this by veteran artist Takunje for exposure.
When I was coming up, we used to have a place called City Hall, and the National City Hall where we used to go and perform, but all of a sudden when development started to come, and then they're trying to take it to another classic level that nobody can afford. So with my own ingenuity and my own spark that God blesses me with, I'm like, yo, let me do this and open this part up that Liberian artists can be able to prioritize the skills and the talents.
Liberian creative scene is still growing, and these artists, both traditional and modern, are determined to grab the world's attention while singing and dancing to their own tune. Susan Mungeli, CGTN, in Monrovia, Liberia.
On to East Africa now, where Kenya may have marked its last Boxing Day this year if a cabinet proposal is anything to go by. From next year, if approved by Parliament, the day after Christmas will be officially known as Utamaduni Day or Cultural Day. It will also be used to celebrate the country's rich culture and heritage. CGTN's Robert Nagila looks at what the change could mean.
The day after Christmas. This is what Nairobi, a city that normally chalks on its own traffic, looks like on Boxing Day. Empty. Public spaces, however, are packed to capacity, with people jostling for boat rides, experiencing the merry-go-round, horse and camel rides, and all sorts of fun. But does Boxing Day have any meaning for Kenyans?
I do not know the meaning of Boxing Day. I hear it's the day when the presents are opened. I am over 30 and I have never received any presents.
For many Kenyans, Christmas is a family affair where we all get together to celebrate a day packed in tradition. Boxing Day is usually a day of recovery after years overindulging in drink and food. But this may very well be the last Boxing Day in Kenya if new government proposals come into play in 2020. At the final cabinet meeting of the year on December 19th, chaired by President Uhuru Kenyatta, the cabinet proposed renaming Boxing Day an international holiday to Utamaduni or Culture Day. The idea is to celebrate the country's rich cultural diversity and heritage. Essentially, that would mean going from this to this. Many people we spoke to at Uhuru Park, a recreational park adjacent to the central business district, are rooting for the change.
We are Africans. We have our own culture. So if it is changed, it will be better than Boxing Day. Because for me, Boxing Day ended a long time ago.
I would like that because it is a Western tradition. If changed, different ethnic groups can come here to sample and learn each other's culture, food and music.
But, as is always the case, not everyone agrees. Those providing the entertainment are uncertain what the change means for them.
They should make it a different day, because many people come here on Boxing Day as an extension of Christmas. It will affect our business.
It's not a done deal yet. The proposed amendments to the Public Holidays Act still have to be approved by Parliament, which resumes its sittings in 2020. So, as the world prepares to bid farewell to 2019, Kenyans are most probably saying cheerio to that good old British tradition of Boxing Day and going back to their roots. Robert Nagila, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
And still in Kenya, the country has made significant strides in the education sector since making primary school free and compulsory in 2003. Enrollment has steadily risen over the last decade, but many children in remote areas are still struggling to access quality education. And as CGTN's Penina Karibe explains, the going is much tougher for young girls.
The morning assembly starts things off every morning at Guram Primary School in Marsabit County. It's 8 a.m. and the sweet melody of music fills the morning air. Guram is a word which in the local Rendile language means to move. It's a word that captures the lives of the local pastoralist communities that move from one area to another in search of water and pasture for their animals. The school started back in 2001 with classes being offered under these acacia trees. 18 years down the line, it has made some small strides, constructing 8 permanent classrooms and enrolling 300 pupils. Regina Leitemu is among the 300 pupils. She's in class 6 and on this morning, she's just settling down to begin her classes. However, Regina's day started long before daybreak, at 4 a.m. to be precise. We find her at her home getting ready for school. With no electricity, she has to rely on a torch to get around the house. A few minutes later, she's ready. She carries her firewood, used in school to cook food for the pupils, bids her mum goodbye and heads off into the darkness together with her neighbours. The trek to school is long, 7 kilometers. The journey is fraught with many dangers.
Sometimes on the way to school, we come across hyenas, so we're forced to go back home. The next day when we go back to school, we get punished by the teacher for skipping school.
As the sun comes up in the horizon, Regina and her friends have covered half the 7-kilometer journey. It takes them 2 hours to get to school.
When they come to school, it is very late. When they go to class, they cannot concentrate well because of tiredness. They are very tired.
Regina braves the day at school and in the evening starts the 7-kilometer walk all over again. It's a real sacrifice, but one that is necessary for her to get ahead in life. Her school is the only one in the area that offers upper classes. In 2002, Kenya introduced free primary education across the public system. That saw a huge increase in pupil enrollment. However, in some places such as Marsabit County, access to education still remains a challenge.
The county is the largest in the country, with about 78,000 square kilometers, 800 kilometers from one corner to the other. However, the population also is very sparse because of strategic reasons where people settle and maybe institutions have been already established in some certain areas, so people choose to walk. But because of resources, again, you cannot be able to provide at every other center.
Now I'm going to show you one of the specimens that we have.
At Bishop Cavalera Girls Secondary School, a biology class is underway. It's a girls-only school, majority from local communities. These are the lucky ones who have managed to break the barriers.
It really means a lot because many wanted to get this opportunity, but they didn't. But I got it, and I'm really proud of it. And I can assure you that I will work hard, and at the last, I'll be successful.
Our main program is to ensure that there's transition of learners from primary school to high school. And with this, we identify kids from poor families who have done well and cannot completely afford high school education.
For the girls, however, settling into secondary school is not easy.
At the beginning, when we are receiving them, the situation is a bit challenging. It's difficult for them. Actually, we have to work a lot in counseling.
As Kenya works towards ensuring access to quality education, many in Marsabit are hoping they will enjoy the fruits of that campaign and be at par with other regions in the country. Penina Karibe, CGTN in Marsabit, Kenya.
Right now, let me hand you over to Rama for the latest in business.
Thank you very much, Mahia. Here's what's coming up in business news. Some 10 million mobile phone users in Tanzania to be cut off if they fail to meet the end December registration deadline. And the world's biggest economy reports a tripling of cell phone-related injuries in the last 10 years.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Every story starts out like this. But beyond the rush of the numbers, there's always a more fundamental question. What happened? Who has been affected? When market-moving decisions are made, who's responsible and why?
Let's get some reaction on ground. Joining us in Johannesburg is Sutra Naidoo. Hello, Naro.
This
Well, of course,
is how all stories begin. See how they end. Only on Global Business.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. The fate of about 10 million phone users in Tanzania hangs in the balance, as the government there is reiterating that there will be no extension for phone users who failed to have their SIM cards biometrically registered by the end of December. Now, the government says that the move partly aims to reduce mobile phone fraud. Here's CGTN's Isaac Lukando with the details from Dar es Salaam.
Tanzania's Works, Transport and Communications Minister Isaac Kamwelwe has reiterated the government's stance that there will be no extension for phone users who fail to have their SIM cards biometrically registered by the December 31st deadline. In May of this year, the country's Communications Regulatory Authority directed that owners of all subscriber identification module cards, or SIM cards as they are known, should biometrically register their lines by the end of the year. The authority said the move was aimed at getting rid of dishonest mobile phone line users, controlling cybercrime and protecting Tanzanians against those abusing the telecom sector. If the move does go through, 10 million phone users could potentially lose communication. Recent data released by the Communications Regulatory Authority says that out of 21 million phone users in the country, 7.6 million phone users have already been registered, while 3 million phone users are in the process of registration and around 10 million phone users are yet to be registered. Of the 7 telecom providers in the country, none has reached 50% registration, standing the risk of losing out on potential income. Most of the newspapers in the country carry headlines that point to increasing anxiety among those who have not yet registered as the deadline draws near. The main challenge that Tanzanians seem to be facing is that they do not have national identity cards that would have enabled them to register their SIM cards. The National Identification Authority, NIDA, says it is working as fast as possible to facilitate registrations. There have also been differing views on the matter, with the president indicating in some of his public addresses that he may be in favor of not cutting off phone users after the deadline for lack of registration. The fate of unregistered phone users, therefore, remains to be seen once the deadline passes. Isaac Lukando, CGTN, Dar es Salaam.
Now, 2019, so Volkswagen announced that it had stopped production of the Beetle model back in July, both the old one and the current replacement. But if some garages in Nairobi are anything to go by, you're not about to see the end of that car. A number of Kenyan drivers are restoring the old Beetles, and they're going to enormous lengths to do so. Here's CGTN's Daniel Arap Moy with that story.
Welcome to Ryan Auto Restorations. I want to introduce you to some of the projects I have here. Yeah. These are 1957 oval window.
It may be small, but the Volkswagen is gaining popularity in Kenya. The key about the VW Beetle is lightweight construction. All these reduces the car's weight, and it's one of the most recognizable cars ever made. Richard Kisulani, who owns a 1976 Beetle, is one among many Kenyans in love with the Mini. Chasing Minis and remodeling them has become his full-time job. He says getting an old Beetle back on the road could cost as much as $35,000, depending on the condition of the car.
For you to get a head turner, a good-looking car, you should be ready to spend on such a car. Though it's very expensive to restore a car than to buy a new car.
With Mini, everything really is Mini. Mini comfort, Mini standard features, and Mini seats.
I love this car so much because it's stable on the road, it's simple, easy to maintain. It doesn't require a lot of experience to do it.
Kisolani's VW Beetle 1976 model is powered by a 1200 high combustion engine, which produces 40 horsepower. The 1976 model can go from 0 to 100 seconds in a minute to reach a top speed of 160 kilometers per hour. But these figures alone hardly explains how the VW Beetle became a 21st century car of legend.
When you ask them, majority of them will tell you, we used to have this car back in the days, my dad, my granddad. So they developed the interest in restoring the cars because of the history they had back when they were young.
In the busy city of Nairobi, this agile little car can maneuver through the smallest of spaces. This year, Volkswagen officially produced its last Beetle. But in Kenya, the story is far from over, as the Beetle is just reawakening. Daniel Arap Moi, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
Right, from one story filled with nostalgia right into another. In West Africa, the long-running row is about which country produces the best version of jollof rice. In East Africa, though, the row is about who has the best quality coffee. Ugandan scientists have now waded into the fray. They argue that the Robusta variety they grow in the country's highlands has an edge over other varieties produced in sub-Saharan Africa. We Kenyans, of course, disagree. But still, what exactly does define a good coffee? Here's CGTN's Hilary Ayesiga with this story.
A taste of quality. Yvette Agaba has sampled a variety of coffees from sub-Saharan Africa, but she enjoys the Ugandan varieties better.
With the many times I've cup-tasted coffees, I think Uganda has a very good advantage and very good coffees, yes, on the market compared to Kenya and Ethiopia and Burundi. Ethiopia is very good.
And Ugandan scientists agree with her preference.
We tested the cup quality on we use the scale, the quality specialty coffee, the Specialty Coffee Association of American quality scale. And on this scale, our coffee was scoring above 80%. And normally, any coffees that score on that scale above 80% qualifies for a premium coffee.
But what defines good coffee?
Among these properties we look for the body, the acidity, and the different flavor notes that are found in very many different cups.
Walking through this shop with its variety of coffees, the aromas are thick and chocolatey. But the taste is up to the customers. Arion Wambali is a passionate coffee drinker.
When I come to Mukago Coffee, it is purely a blend of both Robusta coffee and Arabic coffee, and I like the flavors. They are wow.
Baristas are now brewing a variety of flavors to attract more coffee lovers like Arion. The flavors include cappuccino, latte, and macchiato, among others.
We not only serve a coffee, but we go ahead and look out for the good quality coffee. We have excellent roasters who do that, and we also have excellent baristas. I mean, the brewing technique is up there.
Uganda produces 80% Robusta coffee and 20% Arabica, but much of the coffee is exported. And while some coffee lovers are keen and selective on the origin of the beverage, many others care less as long as they get a cup of their daily dose of caffeine. Hilary Ayesiga, CGTN, Kampala.
And we're still in Uganda. The capital there may have endless options when it comes to nightlife. Here's CGTN's Leon Sanyango with this report indicating that from the suburbs all the way to uptown, there's always something that makes Kampala stand out.
Kampala, Uganda's capital. The city's bright lights are an invitation to the night's thrills. Here, one suburb, Kabalagala, makes for one of the hottest spots after dark. The numerous bars offer much of the enjoyment here. Most close at dawn.
I like Kabalagala. I am here 2 months, but I enjoy Kabalagala, Kansanga. It is a very good place. In Site Kampala, very safe and very good.
The mushrooming gambling parlors and clubs have added color to the suburb. Kabalagala is indeed famous for its nightlife, but there are many other entertainment options around town too.
Why do all people from Koboko look like me?
For a laugh, several places serve up comedy nights. Hundreds gather to listen to jokes from local comedians.
Ladies love it, and ladies are the most fun like in the whole world.
But one can take it a notch up with a visit to the dance clubs. The dazzling lights, dancing and drinks keep the party going.
The feeling is good because you can be like in a group, your friends, but everybody's dancing to different kind of music.
Actually, this is one of the best trending nights in Uganda.
Festivals and band performances have made the city's nightlife even more popular. Leon Sanyanga, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
And finally, I'm partially guilty of the behavior you're going to see in this next story. Do you always look at your phone whenever you go? You're walking the street and you're right here on your handset. And are you aware of the risks of doing so? Here's CGTN's Karina Huber with this report from New York.
Countless videos that have gone viral have captured people tripping and falling when using their phones while on the move. Many of them are humorous, but there's a not-so-funny side to the all-common experience.
A new study shows that walking while using your cell phone can be dangerous to your health. It finds that over the last 12 years, the number of head and neck injuries has more than tripled in the United States.
The cell phone-related injuries to those parts of the body started appearing in 2007, with roughly 2,700 of them in the U.S. By 2016, there were more than 9,400 of them.
What happened in 2007 is we changed the way we use our cell phones. Our cell phones went from being this to being this.
Facial plastic surgeon Boris Paskover is the co-author of the study. He says the spike in injuries coincides with the arrival of the iPhone in 2007, when smartphones became more like mini computers. He says the kinds of injuries run from minor to extreme.
Cuts, bruises, abrasions, you fall, you cut your face, you nick your chin, you nick your, forehead, common things. But they go all the way up to, broken bones.
He's seen broken jaws, broken nasal bones, and even injuries to internal organs. The study collected data from roughly 100 emergency rooms across the United States. Only cases where patients reported the use of a cell phone as a cause for their injury was counted. Paskover believes the problem is likely much bigger than the data suggests, and policy changes could be needed.
I think it's more of a social awareness. I think we as a society need to be aware of not, kind of staring at our phones as we walk. We got to change the way we use them. The other thing is, it wouldn't be crazy to have, laws say you can't cross the street while you're on your phone.
Some young Americans agree.
I definitely won't use it while I'm crossing the road. That's the one thing I make sure.
I never use my phone crossing the street. I just feel like I'm not really a phone person. It's not that important to me.
Paskover hopes more people start to think that way too. Karina Huber, CGTN, New York.
I'll leave it there for the time being. Later on at the top of the hour, we'll be looking at the African Development Bank. It's approved a credit facility, about $55 million, to help Tanzania implement reforms in its business sector. But where exactly is this money going to go, and what returns should Tanzanian citizens expect? We'll explore that at 1800 GMT. For now, back to Mahia.
Thanks, Rama. Well, still to come here on Africa Live. An architect in Nigeria breaks new ground in animation, and he's quite the sensation.
Join us in Global Business and see Africa through our eyes.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Panater, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival, and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN, see the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. Now, while Nollywood is big in Nigeria, some young creators are aiming to boost the country's animation industry. They're taking on projects which reflect local themes that are going viral and attracting millions of viewers. Here is CGTN's Deji Badmus with one such animator who is breaking new ground.
This 3D animation was the work that brought Olajide Babalola and his Black House Studios to limelight. Babalola and his team created the Santa Project to bring a culturally Nigerian perspective to the story of Santa Claus using animation. By using local characters and adapting his entire content to reflect local nuances, Babalola's animations have since become a hit. Trained as an architect, Babalola founded Black House Studios in 2009, a production company that specializes in 3D modeling and animation. He says he picked up animation as his storytelling medium because he desired to tell stories that both the old and young could relate with.
It's a very good medium, you know, to impact the consciousness of viewers. So you can break down complex messages into simple procedures. You can use it to tell a story, you can use it to teach, you can use it to train, you can use it to document, you can use it as a historical tool. There are so many things, enlightenment, education. So it just depends on what is inside you, what message or what idea, what concept you're trying to relate.
Animation has a universal appeal because of its versatile storytelling tool. And because of its element of entertainment, it's easy to overlook the complexities of producing it. Babalola dispels the myths about animation, explaining that there's more to it than meets the eye.
The total production process starts from concept development. You have your concept development, your scripts, you know, your story outline, whatever message you're trying to give. You do your storyboarding, then you start your character development. All these processes are things that on their own will take a whole studio or studios to do.
Nigeria's Nollywood film industry is the second largest in the world, but animation is still in its infancy in Nigeria. Babalola says poor funding and cultural acceptance are hindering the growth of the animation industry in the country.
The environment has not recognized the value. You know, the value proposition of animation has not yet been properly established in Nigeria. So a lot of people just look at it as a joke. You know, you say, "Are you animating?" and somebody says, "Oh." The value of animation is not yet properly established in Nigeria. So I think one of the key challenges we are facing, but it's changing. It's evolving.
To fast-track this evolution, Babalola's Black House Studios is training hundreds of people to tell stories through animation, including kids from as young as 9 years old. They have also produced over 50 animation videos, all with local Nigerian characters. The end game for him is using animation to spur social-political change in Nigeria and other impactful causes. Deji Badmus, CGTN, Abuja, Nigeria.
And here's what's coming up in the sport. Top drivers prepare for the 2020 Dakar Rally in Saudi Arabia.